exposing government corruption, defending our Constitution, demanding the rights of we the people, broadcasting the truth the puppet media dare not report. Long live liberty and death to the New World Order. Prepare yourself. This is Real News Radio with your host, Farron.
Hello and welcome to the Radio, your weekly broadcast where we discuss current events, politics, the complete failure of our government for any semblance of representation of we the people. We will be joined after the first break with Jim Tucker, veteran journalist that's been following the Bilderberg event for what, Brian, some 25, 30 years?
It's been a very long time.
Very long time. His book, Bilderberg Diaries, an excellent book to read. He will be joining us here in about 10 minutes. He was at the Athens, Greece Bilderberg event last week, so we're looking forward to hearing from him. We're going to go ahead and get started in the news, and this was reported in the Charlotte Observer this past week, was given to us by a listener. Gas prices rise despite high supply, low demand. Oil and gas prices are rising fast as Memorial Day weekend approaches, but not to be because supplies are tight or demand is high. Wall Street speculators, some of the very recipients of the billions of dollars in taxpayer bailout money, may be to blame. U.S. crude oil inventories are at their highest level in almost 2 decades, and demand has fallen to a 10-year low, but crude oil supplies have climbed more than 70 cents since mid-January to a 6-month high of $62.04 Wednesday. Meanwhile, although refineries are operating at less than 85% of capacity, which leaves them room to churn out more gasoline if demand rises this summer, the price of gas at the pump has climbed 28 cents a gallon from a month earlier to a $2.33 national average. Price in North Carolina were just below that at $2.32 as of Wednesday. Big Wall Street banks such as Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and others are able to sidestep the regulations that limit investment in oil and other commodities, and they're investing on behalf of pension funds, endowments, hedge funds, and other big institutional investors, in part as a hedge against rising inflation. These investors now far outnumber big fuel consumers such as airlines and trucking companies, which try to protect themselves against the price swings. And they're betting that the economy will eventually rebound, that the Obama administration spending policies and Federal Reserve actions will trigger inflation, or both, and that oil prices will rise. So what this article in the Charlotte Observer is going on to say is that the very companies that have received the bailout money are now using that money to speculate in oil futures, and that is what's causing the price of gas to rise. No one's saying why the price of gas is suddenly rising. We don't have a hurricane that they can hoax it off on right outside the coast of Louisiana or somewhere. The very companies that have robbed and looted the American people are using the money given to them by the corrupt Federal Reserve to yet fleece the American people yet another way. The sellout of the middle class continues. Brian, have you got a comment? What do you think?
You just couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, we're getting it twice. First, they take our money from us, of course, with overwhelming in the Senate. I mean, they received how many phone calls against the bailout?
Oh, way over 90% against it. We don't have a government that represents the will of the people. That's a fairy tale.
Then they take our money. They invest in oil futures, which makes the price of our gas go up. So now we have to pay more as a result of giving them our money in the first place.
Yes, just looted and robbed and stolen from, and the American people sit back, glassy-eyed, dumbfounded, just going along with it. And North Carolina has the audacity to say that this demand is down and they're not getting as much tax revenue. They tell us, they teach you conserve. Now the tax revenue's down. They got to go up on the taxes. Always the loser, the middle class, and yet the people have faith in this silly two-party system that is a one-party system that is designed to sell you out. Black and white right here in the Charlotte Observer, given to me by a listener. Didn't have time to read the whole article, but it just plainly says what we've just stated. They're using the money they robbed and looted from the American people, and we're going to go into this a little further next hour. We got a clip we want to play for you. It should blow your mind. But using the money to hike up the price of gas and line their pockets with their filthy lucre, and that's all that ever happens. Here we had reported on this starting last March. Here it is, Financial Times. China and Brazil plan to dump the dollar. We'd been saying it was going to happen May 19, 2009. Brazil and China will work towards using their own currencies in trade transactions rather than the U.S. dollar, according to Brazil's central bank and aides to Lula da Silva, Brazil's president, can't pronounce the name correctly. The move follows recent Chinese challenges to the status of the dollar as the world's leading international currency. In Beijing this week, China's president first discussed the idea of replacing the dollar and trade currencies when they met at the G20 summit in London last month. An official at Brazil's central bank stressed that talks were at the early stage. He also said that they were under discussion was not a currency swap of the kind China had recently agreed with Argentina and which the U.S. had agreed with. So they're talking about completely dropping the dollar. Brian, what kind of impact would that have on our economy?
It would be like launching a rocket over a cliff at Mach 5.
Unbelievable. And we're seeing this. We've been saying that it was going to happen, and right here it is in black and white. Wait till China drops the dollar. And since our government is intentionally and purposely destroying our economy, devaluing our currency, this must be what they want to achieve. We'll ask veteran journalist Jim Tucker about this, if that's what he got out of what information he got from Bilderberg.
Once we reach a tipping point, I mean, it's just going to be a domino effect where, say, if China dumps the dollar, then, say, Korea or any other country looks at it and says, oh, man, they're dumping it. We need to get rid of this. This is a phenomenal pace.
They would be even up the dollar. I mean, the dollar's backed by nothing. It's mere paper, and the Federal Reserve is intentionally destroying it. I mean, it's obvious to anyone that can't. Go start off with the news, Brian.
Exactly as we predicted, deadly New York terror cell are semi-retarded potheads. As in every other major case, terror groups hyped by media turn out to be low IQ bums radicalized by federal provocateurs.
Every time this comes about, it's the same story.
This was by Paul Joseph Watson, PrisonPlanet.com, Friday, May 22nd, 2009. Exactly as we predicted in our headline story yesterday, two of the ringleaders in the deadly New York terror plot, ferociously hyped by the media and government officials, have turned out to be semi-retarded potheads. The men will likely turn out to be semi-retarded dropouts, we stated in our article yesterday, basing our forecast on the fact that in every other major terror sting in the West given so much prominence by officials and the corporate media, the poor suckers rounded up by the feds always turn out to be low IQ petty criminals down on their luck, provocateured and armed by federal agents. We already knew that the men were provided with an inert rocket launcher and a fake C4 explosives by an FBI informant. And now as more details emerge, our original summation of the case is correct. According to the Associated Press report, the four men charged with planning to blow up synagogues and military planes were amateurs every step of the way. They had trouble finding guns and bought cameras at Walmart to photograph their targets. One was convicted purse snatcher. Another smoked marijuana the day the plot was supposed to be carried out. The report continues. On their luck, men who had worked at places like Walmart, a landscaping company, and a warehouse when they weren't behind bars. Pagan's lawyer said that he was intellectually challenged and on medication for schizophrenia. Marilyn Reeder said that he has a very low borderline IQ. Of course, it was only after an FBI informant radicalized these bums and provided them with weapons that they became any kind of threat, providing the feds with the opportunity to swoop in, declare a victory on terror, and use the case as a poster child for Americans to accept police-state measures and believe the hype surrounding domestic terrorists in the wake of controversy surrounding the Mayak report. As the AP article concedes, some have criticized informants' roles in such cases, saying they egged on and snared suspects who weren't dangerous. As we reiterated yesterday, the same scam played out every single time, but the media very rarely makes a big deal out of it when the suspects turn out to be retarded bums who couldn't even have achieved what the provocateur prodded them into advocating without direct help from the feds. The original hype story about the foiled deadly terror plot remains in the memory, while the truth surrounding the case is buried near the back of the newspaper.
We're going to a break. We'll be back in 3 minutes with Jim Tucker, Bilderberg Diaries, member of the American Free Press.